Hello again, Chris Lee of Southeastern 16 here with Jay Grease, and we are going to give you and predict the entire SEC baseball tournament bracket for 2015. This year we are going to a single elimination for the first time. We're just going to pick this straight through. Jay and I may arrive at different places, and that's okay. That'll be the fun of it. Jay, let's get started. Let's put the bracket
quick question for you before we dive into the bracket. Do you like this format with the double buys and everybody get invited more than what they've had in years past where you had to finish in a top tier or whatever else? I mean, what are your kind of thoughts on this being the first year of all 16 being in Hoover?
I think I do, but ask me when it's done.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
For a number of reasons. And I might get into those after the bracket. But let's give the people what they came for. Picks. Let's just start in the upper left-hand corner, pick these game by game. Alabama and Missouri. I think Alabama, Jay, could have a little something to play for. I think right now, if season ends, it's hard to justify anything but Alabama as a host. But they're in a cluster with Tennessee and Ole Miss, and each team has different things going for it. And if one or both those teams were to make a run in the tournament and Alabama were to lose here, that could change. Don't know what Alabama's pitching situation is going to be exactly. Their bullpen's been a little better lately. Missouri went back to being Missouri last weekend. I don't know how you'd pick anybody but Alabama in this spot, especially with it being in their state.
Well, that's point A. Point B is, yes, Alabama has stuff to play for, but potentially beating Tennessee and maybe in a tug-of-war game in the second round could be a tiebreaker or a coin flip in the eyes of the committee. Losing to Missouri is a dunk because it is an RPI gash. So honestly, and we can have this conversation with a lot of these teams, do you potentially, depending on how badly you need to win, do you throw your starter in a game that you perceive like, I know it's a couple ones ahead, but does Florida hold Aiden King for game 2? I mean, I don't know those questions. Those guys are getting paid a heck of a lot of money to make those decisions, but Alabama's got to make certain, because if they've got any chance to host a regional, they cannot, and potentially more. Getting deep into Hoover is important, but you cannot lose Tuesday.
Yeah, I don't think that any staffs are going to throw their ones or twos out on a Tuesday. And you'll have to go back and look at what they pitch. Alabama went, I think, Tyler Fay, Riley Quick, Zane Adams last week, and I guess we would see maybe a Bobby Alcock, somebody like that in this spot, maybe Aiden Vinatieri. I don't know if he started or not, but I think it's going to be one of those guys. And then you'll probably, if it gets desperate, see a Braylon Myers, maybe or Carson Osmer at the end. J.D. Blackwood will probably factor in there somewhere. That's the way I see it playing out. However it plays out, I'm just going to like Alabama's pieces better here. And that I think you want to get maybe a run rule in to save your pitching for the Vols on Wednesday if you can. So we're both going to Alabama. I'll keep track of these as we go. Okay, game 2, Oklahoma and Kentucky, Jay. I think Oklahoma is safely in the tournament as a 2, maybe a 3, but safely in the tournament. And I think Kentucky is safely in the tournament too. But you don't want to take any chances. You're 13-17 in the league. You've got 29 overall wins. These teams played a series once, not long ago. It was in Lexington 2 weekends ago. Kentucky wins by scores of 4-3, 8-5, 7-2. Now, the pitchers you saw in those spots and the pitchers you see in these spots are probably going to be different. I'm going to guess Kentucky's probably going to throw an Ethan Walker, a hodgepodge of Evan Byers, maybe Leighton Harris, guys like that. Jackson Novey, if it's close, he's been really good lately. I think they've got a lot of arms, and I've always been really good arms. Oklahoma's issue has been after Kyson Witherspoon. Dylan Crooks in the back of that bullpen's been pretty good. I'm guessing you're going to see, I don't know if this would be a a Cam Johnson game. I feel like we haven't seen him in a while. Jason Bowden, I would think would get some time there. James Hitt, those kind of guys. Michael Caroline, perhaps. That's what we're looking at, I think, with both these teams pitching wise. Not aces, but a lot of guys is how I would imagine they'll navigate it.
Well, and to that end, I'm going to trust the team that has been better pretty much all year of creating runs, and that's Kentucky.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I think that'll be a fun matchup. They both play similar styles. I think their styles play to a big ballpark where pitching and defense and speed are a thing and favored, but I think we saw the first time around. Granted, it was in Lexington, but I'm going to ride with what our eyes told us the first time. Florida at South Carolina. One team with a ton to play for, and another team, that I think we thought South Carolina could just be looking to get it over with last weekend. Didn't happen that way. Took game one from LSU. But I just like everything about Florida here.
I do too. They're starting to get pieces back. Their pitching depth is going to be a real issue. Everybody's talking about which of these first day teams do you think can make a run? I'm kind of bullish on the Gators, to be honest about it, because you don't know when they're going to trot out the Aiden King. You don't know when Coppola may get the ball. You don't know when they're going to have some guys that you look up and going, okay, we're starting a midweek starter, and they're handing the ball to a guy who a lot of people thought would either be on the All-SEC team or should be on the All-SEC team. So, and a deep run this week. This week will be unbelievably interesting for so many reasons. Not only about how the single elimination with 16 teams play out, but also the conversation about how much does the selection committee factor this in moving forward.
Yeah.
But no, I love Florida here.
Yeah, I do too. This next one, my goodness. Talk about stakes. A&M, I think, has got to win this event or at least get to the title game to get into the NCAA tournament. Mississippi State, I think, is now solidly in. But lose this one, you might be a 3 in a regional with a little tougher matchup in opening day. Might get sent a little further away. Who knows? You want to build on that hot streak that you ended the season on. Pitching-wise, boy, this is going to be the moment of truth. I don't know if A&M, knowing what it has to play for, and I haven't seen the matchups yet, if anybody's announced anything. I don't know if they just say, hey, we started Ryan Prager Thursday. We're going to go with him here. You probably roll the dice and say, let's try to win game one and maybe bump Prager back to what would be Auburn on Wednesday. I think those are possibilities. I don't know where they go. You probably see a combination of Caden Wilson, Caden Freshcorn, Caden McCoy, Gavin Lyons, Brad Rudis, and they do have some good bullpen arms here. State, I can't remember who they were going with in midweeks, but you're not going to see Pico Cone in this spot, I wouldn't think. And I feel like State's got a pretty good bullpen too. We didn't talk about it a lot, and it wasn't always good. It faltered late in the season, but there's some good arms there. Yeah, this is the tough one. I would have a little better feel on it if I knew what the pitching situation would look like for both teams. But I just think State's playing with so much confidence right now compared to A&M, and that's where I'm going.
Confidence, fair. Playing better, fair. The unknowns, I'm going with a desperation factor. And I think Texas A&M is the more desperate dog in this fight, and that's where I'm going. And it wouldn't shock me if they then jump past Auburn, especially if they can find a way to get by State and then hold Prager and give him the ball, because Auburn really is going to feel like an indifferent team to me in this.
Yeah,
but give me A&M there, and then we'll go through the next round.
Okay, so we went the same on the first three and different on the last one. We go back to the top. where we will have Alabama, according to both of us, taking on Tennessee. And again, I don't know if Tennessee goes back to Marcus Phillips. He pitched Thursday. That's 6 days rest. That's appropriate, I would think. Tennessee's probably got a little something to play for here. And so does Alabama with the potential hosting spot on the line. Alabama, I would imagine, goes back to Tyler Fay, who's been their opener here. I feel like Alabama's bullpen's pitched a little better lately. There's that too, and I think you're probably going to see a lot of both bullpens. Now, I'll tell you what, if it is Phillips, boy, that could be a little bit of a dangerous spot because you got a lot of foul territory, and we've seen a lot of botched pickoff throws. And you get one past your first baseman, and the guy on first may be standing on third in the blink of an eye. So keep an eye on that one too.
I'm going Tennessee here because I do think they have a lot to play for, and I think it'll be a very springboard moment for me on how confident I am about Tennessee flipping the switch from a frustrating back half of the regular season. Now that the postseason and brackets are drawn up, I think a lot of these guys are going to embrace the reset button that a tournament will allow them, especially knowing that they won the whole thing last year. And I expect them to play well. So, especially if they can trot a guy like Phillips out there this early, that's beneficial. I'm taking Tennessee here.
Yeah, Tennessee's pitching has just not been good down the stretch, but you got a lot of talented options there. Man, I think I'm going to go with you. I was leaning Alabama. I'll ride with Tennessee just on maybe a little bit more to play for. Alabama could have possibly, clinched a regional host just by beating Missouri. I don't know how it's going to go. Tennessee, I feel like, has got to do a little something in this tournament. So we'll both go the Vols, but I think that's going to be a tremendous game, and no outcome would surprise me. All right, Kentucky and Georgia. And by the way, Tennessee did win the opening series against Alabama in Tuscaloosa 2-1 when they played earlier this season.
That brings us Tennessee team.
Well, it was, and maybe a different Alabama team too. Maybe not as different, but we get to Kentucky and Georgia, and we've seen this one before too. And boy, were there runs in this one. It was in Athens. It was also the first weekend of the year. Georgia won game 1, 12-6. Won game 3, 17-10. Kentucky won game 2, 10-7. I got to tell you, I saw Kentucky this weekend, really like that team. But where they get in trouble is when they get into their pen to fill late innings that are of importance. I don't know if they go back to one of their starters, if they maybe go you could see him go Nate Harris in that spot, and he's been fine. Not great, but fine. I don't know what Georgia will do, but I think, to me, I'm a little worried about Kentucky's bullpen situation in a game 2 spot with all those bats with Georgia.
And that's fair. But also this is not a ballpark that Georgia's going to be able to sneak a whole bunch of them. They're going to have to crush it to get out of Hoover.
Yeah.
So, and Georgia's pitching has not been super great either. The one thing that we got to mention in the second round here, with a one-day turnaround against top-flight competition, winning comfortably in the first round is paramount. Because if you start, and I know rosters are deeper than they've ever been, and with the NIL, the bullpen talent, it feels like everybody who rolls out of bed and warms up in the bullpen is throwing 93, 94s. But you can't spend a whole lot of these guys getting out of round 1, getting out of round 2, and expect to match up with some of these double bye teams and be real confident about it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Are we both going Georgia here?
I'm going Georgia here just because if the pitching's a push, Georgia's offense is better, even in a bigger ballpark.
Okay, we will then go to Florida and Ole Miss, another interesting one. Ole Miss's pitching depth, I feel like, got better late in the season, but they are going to be, I think, without Mason Nichols for the time being. I don't think he would have pitched in that spot anyway, but just a note. I wonder if it'll be a Mason Morris start for Ole Miss potentially. That could be interesting. I think
That'd
they've
be
still
good
got.
news if you're an Ole Miss fan.
Yeah,
That
I
guy's
mean
been
he's
good.
pitched great all year. Yeah, I mean that's one. You still got Gunnar Dennis and some guys that pitched a lot of ball. Florida at that point, you really need to win. I don't know if they roll Liam Peterson back into that role or not. That's a thought, perhaps. And Florida midweeks was pretty decent. They had enough talented arms to figure it out. So I don't know that probably Florida's in a pitching depleted situation by that Ole Miss game. But you'd rather be the team that's fresher. So there's that.
I'm taking Florida here, and dear Lord, if you're Arkansas and Florida can get through those first two without using Aiden King, that's a nightmare scenario. That's double bye gone bad is what that is. But I'm taking Florida over Ole Miss.
Well, and the Gators lost 2 of 3 to Ole Miss back in week 2 of the season. That was in Oxford, so there's that. They were all close games.
When the pitching was in shambles.
Yeah. I think I'm going to go Florida with that one too. Which brings us to either Mississippi State or Texas A&M against Auburn. Auburn against those teams this year. Let's see. Took 2 out of 3 against Mississippi State. And Auburn and A&M did not play. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct.
Okay, so give me yours first because I'm going to have to think about this one.
Well, I took A&M in the first one.
Okay.
I'm taking A&M here.
Okay.
Because I don't see Dutton pitching. And now, when we get into the double bye round, all these guys who are now getting close to whatever was a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you may see a whole lot of aces in the top 4 seeds playing teams that potentially have played 2 games in the last 48 hours.
Yeah.
Which that's a tough order of business, brother. But I could be 1,000% wrong on this. Dead bleeping wrong. But I think A&M's going to try to scratch off one last lottery ticket. So I'm taking A&M over Auburn.
I think
but I would take Auburn over Mississippi State.
I think defense and pitching depth to this point in the tournament are going to matter here, and I'm going to go with Auburn. State was a bad defensive team a lot of the year. Butch's teams pretty well lock it down. So there's that. All right, back to the top of the bracket, Tennessee and Texas. You go first here.
Well,
because I don't know what to think of this one. Texas has got nothing to play for. Tennessee's got something to play for. But do you see Liam Doyle in this spot? I doubt it.
That's the only question here. Because if they get by Alabama and then they hand the ball to Liam Doyle, my betting dollars will be on Tennessee.
See, I think they're going to rest him because that blister has continued to be an issue. And you might have hosting to play for with this one, but with no Liam
if you
Doyle,
get by this one, you've dunked hosting.
Yeah, well, I think so too. And here's the point: you got a decision to make if you're Tony Vitello, because you could use Liam Doyle to get you through this potentially, but that also might mean you wouldn't have him or not have him full strength. 8 days later in the biggest games of your season.
Well, technically, probably if you do play yourself to a host, then you get 9 days because you're not starting Liam Doyle against Bethune-Cookman.
Probably not.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think you need to look at a whole lot of statistical factors when you're making picks. But in this one, we can't pick the brain of the selection committee. I'm taking Tennessee here because I think Texas is locked up any and everything they want.
Again, I think this is a place where pitching depth and defense matter. And I trust Texas more right now. Now, Texas may not have much to play for, so there's that. But I'm going with the Longhorns here. Tennessee's not put a couple games together back to back in a minute, so there's also that. Georgia Vandy, we saw this one the first time in Nashville. Vanderbilt swept the series, held Georgia's bats down. Venue going to be favorable to Vanderbilt here again.
Give me Vandy. I like Vandy here for a multitude of reasons. Rest being a factor, pitching depth being a factor, Tim Corbin being a factor.
Yeah, I'm with you. Don't know what they'll throw. They could do a Miller Green or go back to Austin Nye, who was horrible last week, but it's been good all year. And I don't know if Georgia would just roll Brian Curley out straight out, since he's their game one guy, and probably not going to pitch him in the previous game. No idea. But I think either way you slice it, I'm taking Vandy. Haven't seen this one once. All right. That gives us both Vandy and a different outcome at the top between Tennessee, Texas. Let's go to Florida and Arkansas now. Saw that one once, by the way, and Florida came out on top 2 games to 1 in Fayetteville just a few weekends back. No, I'm sorry. That was Gainesville.
Man, oh, man. It's going to be real interesting to see how these higher seeds embrace. I mean, because now you're getting to a Friday, Saturday, Sunday possibility, and you could be getting Cade Anderson against a bullpen game.
Yeah.
Or no, I'm sorry. Yeah. I was looking at the LSU bracket. I mean, you could be getting Root or any one of the Arkansas dudes against a Florida team who'd be playing their third game in 48 hours. And that's just tough, man. That's
well, but you could also
I misspoke here.
Okay.
Florida would have Thursday off.
Okay.
And
well, I was going to say, presumably you wouldn't use Aiden King or Peterson on Tuesday, and you might not have used them on Wednesday either because of rest and those guys being super valuable. So at this point, if Florida gets there, they may flip it over with Arkansas too.
I actually think Florida is dangerous right now.
Okay.
And I think Arkansas has got, as Pat Dye used to say, the hay's in the barn. I mean, they can go one and done in Hoover, and they're still a national seed, right?
Yes.
So I'm going to take Florida here.
You talked me into it. I'm not a risk taker, but I'm going to go with you. So, yeah, that's interesting. Now we get to, I've got Auburn and you've got A&M against LSU.
And I'm taking LSU over both of them.
And I am too, because you're probably getting Anderson or Einson, probably Anderson, which is where they went last week. And I think LSU's pitching just sets up. By the way, what did Auburn do to get this draw, man? You got to face State or A&M. You got to face a fresh LSU pitching staff, which on Friday nights their options may be as good as anybody's. And by the way, if you get there past that one, you got to take on either Arkansas or Florida.
Well, there are. I mean, other than Alabama's opener, none of these are easy.
Yeah. Back to the top, Texas and Vandy, which didn't meet in the regular season.
And I got Tennessee and Vandy.
Oh, that's right. You do.
I got Tennessee.
Okay. You got Tennessee over Vandy. I'm going to go Vandy over Texas because Vanderbilt always plays well in that event. Their pitching will reset. to that point where they'll have use of plenty of guys. So, yeah. All right. Somebody from the Volunteer State will be in the championship game, which brings
I may
us
be
to,
wicked wrong on this, Chris.
yeah.
If I've got Tennessee playing in Sunday, I am either going to look like a genius or a fool.
Well, Tennessee can do that to you. So that's two sides of the same coin. Florida LSU.
I'm a believer in what O'Sullivan has crafted this Gators bunch to be, but after doing our live show, and you guys can find it on the host of our networks earlier this afternoon about our all SEC teams, LSU walks into this with more better arms than you. And when you're talking about Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that matters. So I'll take LSU going to the title game.
That makes two of us. So you've got LSU Tennessee. I've got LSU Vanderbilt.
And I think we're going to be on the same on this one too.
Yeah, I believe we are. I just think LSU's pitching sets up extremely well for this one.
Who in this league could manage it and be within their structure to hand the ball to somebody like Evans in a title game?
Yeah, if that's where to go. Or Cowan.
I mean, and it just be in your traditional rotation of things, and then Evans gets the ball, even as a freshman, throwing 96 and just buckling people.
Now, there is this. The top half of the bracket gets an extra day of rest.
Well, they get the extra day Friday. The bottom half,
right.
I mean, LSU does not get a day of rest because they don't play till Friday.
Yeah.
So you talked about what kind of bad draw. Auburn got the first two rounds get a Thursday day of rest.
Yeah.
As opposed to the day of rest on the top half of the bracket is Friday.
Yeah.
But
where
that
you could
day
just set your pitching the way
late.
You would anyway. Yeah.
I mean, if you throw a Liam Doyle or whomever, you're not going to come Thursday and then turn around and come back Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And we didn't even mention who's going to be the ultimate winner here, and that's going to be Mother Nature because she always pisses on this tournament.
She does. Thankfully, you got more rest built in on the latter half of it. So we're both going LSU.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, that was, I'm not going to say an easy call, but as soon as I saw the bracket come out, that's where my head went.
I'm with you, my man.
All right. Well, we'll be here to talk about the games when they're played. Be sure to hit the subscribe button to our channel. Catch our reaction shows, catch all of our bracketology shows, all the stuff we do here at Southeastern 16. If you don't mind, give us a like and a thumbs up. That helps analytics. And join the premium tier, which is just extra videos for members. It's $3 a month. Helps the channel, gets you more content. For Jay Greason, I'm Chris Lee. You've been watching SEC Baseball Predictions here at Southeastern 16. God bless you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again soon.